Today we're talking about Mafia: The Old Country. And before I go any further, yes, there will be some spoilers in this review. So if you haven't finished it yet, or if you haven't even played it yet, consider this your formal warning. Before we start, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more of these reviews. It really helps me out. Let's keep covering games like this one. But I want to be upfront. I have some very mixed feelings about this game. I've never played any of the other Mafia titles before, so this was my first foray into this series, and while the story absolutely pulled me in, the gameplay left a lot to be desired.
Bravery is not common in this world, and so loyalty, honor, obedience.
The story is fantastic. Enzo is such a compelling, flawed protagonist. I found myself rooting for him even as he made terrible decisions, especially when he pursued Isabella, the Don's daughter. From that moment, you just know it's not going to end well, and yet you want to see where it goes. I remember the moment he started having this kind of feeling for her, and I remember saying don't do it, dude, this is so stupid. But he did it anyway, and it's like you're rooting for him, but at the same time, he's flawed. He's human, and that kind of makes him more interesting as a character. What really makes it work is how layered Enzo's motivations are. He's not trying to betray Don Teresi or the family, he's trying to quietly leave that life behind. This is, spoiler about the end, he is trying to go to America with Isabella and leave the Mafia life behind. The tragedy is that he's trapped by loyalty and circumstance, and despite taking the oath of Omerta, the Don never truly accepts him as an equal. That is my assertion. Even after Enzo proves his loyalty again and again, Teresi still sees him as just a Caruso, as just a miner boy. Not minor boy, but a mining person, you know what I mean. By the end, I walked away thinking this story sends a powerful message. A man can become a hero not by conquest or power, but by sacrificing everything for his family. That's exactly what Enzo did, and it's what makes his story so memorable. Another thing I genuinely appreciated is how The Old Country doesn't shy away from its historical context. The setting, which is early 1900s Sicily, feels authentic. The devs didn't try to rewrite history or modernize it in a way that breaks immersion. There's no DEI stuff. It just feels immersive. It feels historically accurate. At first, I thought it was odd that Catholicism wasn't directly referenced, given how deeply it's embedded in Sicilian culture, and indeed everybody in Sicily was Catholic at the time. But the more I played, the more I realized it's there, just not explicitly. You see churches, priests are called father, confessions, icons, crucifixes, all those natural feeling cultural touchstones are just baked into the environment. And honestly, I appreciated that they also kept the demographic makeup realistic. Everyone in the story is ethnically Italian, Sicilian, to be technical, which makes sense for the time and place. Historical accuracy should never be controversial, and it just makes the world feel believable. If I were playing a game set in China, I would want basically everybody in the story to be Chinese. It just makes perfect sense. Unfortunately, that's where the good news mostly ends, because the gameplay is where The Old Country starts to fall apart. In a word, it's repetitive. Nearly every mission starts as a stealth section, but while there are some cool stealth mechanics, only one mission, the final one when you're unarmed, actually requires stealth. The rest of the time there's no incentive to sneak around. You can go in guns blazing, and it's not only faster, it's easier. If you're low on health, no problem. The next guy you loot magically has a bandage. If you're running low on ammo, surprise, every enemy carries exactly the type of ammo you need. Literally never ran out of ammo. I never ran out of ammo. I very rarely died, and I very rarely even got close to dying, because if you have low health and you have no bandages left, the next guy you loot always has a bandage. I tested this. So after a while, it almost feels silly. It feels like the game is just trying to make sure you stay alive rather than just presenting a challenge to you. There's no real tension because you're never truly in danger. It's just repetitive shootouts with very little variation. I can't believe I did that. And also, I kind of can't believe I survived that. But look, we got bandages, we got some Donati. The knife fight system is another example of unfortunately wasted potential. The first few encounters are great, hence cinematic, mechanically engaging, and especially that first one where you're fighting the boss of that mine in a knife fight when you lose, and I think you're programmed to lose. It's very interesting. You're like, wow, you know, I'm really on the bottom rung here and I'm trying to climb my way up. But after the first few fights, you realize they all play out exactly the same way. You dodge the heavy attack, you parry the light attack, and you counter with a few quick strikes. Repeat until you win. That's all it is. That's every single fight. And except the last one with Don Teresi is a little bit varied. It should be, it's the final boss, but it's a shame because that system could have evolved into something truly special. Duels that tested your timing and awareness, but instead they become a predictable dance with the same choreography over and over again. The idea was good, but the execution was just not that deep. 2, 3.
Now you see? You're going to die here!
Whoa! Oh, I did hit him though. I did get a hit on him. I also want to talk about the scope. Mafia: The Old Country is a linear, story-driven experience, and that's totally fine by me. I actually think it fits well as a story-driven game. Not every game needs to be an open-world game, like Red Dead Redemption 2, for example, since I played that more recently. But I can't help but feel like it was originally planned to be open-world. This is purely speculation, but I talked about this during my gameplay. I really feel like this was originally supposed to be an open world game. And I think that at some point in development, they said, you know what, this is too big of a scope for this game, just fits a lot better as a linear story driven game. And so they changed it to that, and they took out the ability to just explore the world at your leisure, but they already had some of these open world mechanics in it, and they didn't take those out. For example, you're introduced to Pasquale's store early on, and I thought, oh cool, I'll be able to come here between missions, buy new weapons, cars, or maybe horses, but no. You only get a handful of chances to visit it, and I barely even spent money in the game. I just kind of found my preferred setup early on and just stuck with it. It's like the systems were built for something larger that never materialized. Another thing is, you're kind of catapulted from mission to mission. There's no like, oh, go back to the villa after the mission so that you can have a chance to like stop by the store on the way there. Or, you know, if you take a different route, I actually think there's times where you go out of the boundary and it says, oh, you got to return to the mission area or whatever. I'm not 100% on that. There were times where I left the mission area and it was like, oh, you have to return it within a certain amount of time or else you're just gonna get teleported or you're gonna fail the mission or something like that. But it's like, it feels like it was supposed to be an open world game and they changed it. I don't know, but that's just purely my speculation. On the technical side, I had no complaints. The controls are fine. I kept instinctively trying to use Red Dead Redemption 2's horse controls, which caused a few awkward moments, but that's more on me than the game. Performance-wise, it ran beautifully on Linux, which is a big plus for me personally. And across my entire 15-hour playthrough, I don't think I ran into a single bug, and that's impressive for a modern AAA game release. Honestly, yeah, no complaints with the performance, no complaints with the controls. It ran really well, and I was on max settings given I do have a brand new PC, but it seems to be very well optimized, so kudos to the developers for that. Visually, this game is absolutely stunning. The depiction of the Sicilian countryside is absolutely breathtaking. There were times I stopped mid-mission just to pan the camera and take it all in. The light hitting the fields, the rolling hills, the buildings made out of stone. It's one of the most gorgeous backdrops I've seen in a story-driven title in a long time. The attention to detail in the costumes, the architecture, the period design really elevates the presentation. And from the first mission, like, you're in the mine and it's like, it really captures that atmosphere of like everything is dirty and dusty and grimy, and it's like when you're in the villa of the Torrisi family, it's like everything is nice and peaceful and sun-kissed and you're just in this nice vineyard. It captures the atmosphere so well. The lighting is great, the textures are great, also the sound design is really good. It's just all very immersive, so huge props to the developers for that. That's a huge plus for this game. At $50, The Old Country sits below the industry industry's current push towards $70 AAA titles, and I respect that. For the roughly 15 hours it took me to complete, that's a fair deal, especially given how polished the experience is from a technical standpoint. If you're buying this for the story, absolutely go for it. It's gripping, emotional, and thought-provoking. But if you're looking for engaging, evolving gameplay, you might want to keep looking. You might want to look elsewhere. In the end, Mafia: The Old Country is a tale of two halves. The story is masterful. It's cinematic, morally complex, and full of characters worth debating. Was Enzo a hero? Was Don Teresi truly a villain? Was Cesare a traitor for betraying Enzo, or loyal to his family in his own way? These are the kinds of questions that stick with you long after the credits roll. But the gameplay is functional, but it's borderline boring. It doesn't grow, it doesn't challenge you, and it doesn't reward experimentation. And that's disappointing, because everything else about the game shows such care and passion. I do want to point out that there are some racing missions, and so I don't want to discount those. Props to the developers for including those. There's a big horse racing mission in one of the very first acts, and there's like one or two car racing missions, but that's it. The only variation of missions. My verdict, play it for the story. Skip it if you're chasing gameplay depth. Mafia: The Old Country is a beautiful, tragic narrative trapped inside a very average game. Still, I'd recommend it, especially if you're a fan of cinematic storytelling or historical settings. So that's my review of Mafia: The Old Country. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you agree with Enzo's choices? Do you think Don Teresi was justified in fighting Enzo and trying to prevent him from leaving Sicily? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more story-focused reviews like this. I also do other kinds of games like Guidonia, Guidonia 2, Radio Commander, all of that stuff. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time, and you need to relax.